after direct military clashes between the United States and Iran over the past 48 hours. American and Iranian negotiators have reached an agreement on a 60-day Memorandum of Understanding. Its purpose is to extend the current ceasefire. This is a significant development. According to sources, the agreement is now awaiting President Trump's final approval. If it is signed, it will be implemented with immediate effect. However, no agreement has been reached regarding all of Trump's nuclear demands and the Strait of Hormuz. On Sunday, a senior U.S. administration official stated that until there is a complete deal, there is no deal. This means that, for now, the ceasefire has only been extended for 60 days, but no final decision has been made yet. Will this ceasefire survive for 60 days? Because there are still 4 obstacles. The first obstacle. Recently, Iran attempted to target a U.S. military base in Kuwait. According to reports, at least 5 Americans may have been injured in this attack. Now, if the U.S. military carries out a retaliatory action, the ceasefire could break down once again. This could increase military confrontation between the two sides. A lot can change over the next 60 days. How Iran and the United States behave will also be important, because the US blockade in the Strait of Hormuz is still in place, and Iran is also unwilling to allow any ship to pass through the Strait of Hormuz without paying a fee. This could further increase military tensions between the two sides. Recently, we also saw the US military strike Bandar Abbas in Iran in self-defense, and Iran also uses proxy groups to carry out attacks. Therefore, it is difficult to say how stable this ceasefire will remain. The second obstacle. Will Trump give final approval to this MOU? Because no agreement has been reached regarding all of Trump's nuclear demands or whether the Strait of Hormuz will remain open. There are some reports which indicate that the ceasefire may survive for a few days. A few days ago, Iran was forced to restore internet access because economic and internal pressure on the Iranian government had increased significantly. Many Iranian citizens had become dissatisfied with their own government and felt like prisoners. On the other hand, oil and gasoline prices in the United States have risen considerably over the past few months, especially due to tensions in the Strait of Hormuz and supply disruptions. The average price of gasoline in the United States reached approximately $4.54 per gallon some time ago, which was more than 50% higher than before the war began. However, the situation is now changing slightly. Following reports of a possible agreement and ceasefire between the United States and Iran, crude oil, Brent crude prices have started to decline, but the American public is still under economic pressure. At the same time, economic pressure is also increasing on both countries. Inflation in the United States has reached 3.2 to 3.3%. Energy prices have stabilized somewhat, and oil prices have fallen slightly, but consumers are still feeling the pressure. So economic pressure is continuing to rise on both sides. Therefore, it is possible that this ceasefire could remain in effect for some time without a direct military conflict. And if the 60-day ceasefire remains in place, it could have a major impact on the oil market. The UAE could bring more oil to the market. This could rapidly lower oil prices and increase global supply. The third obstacle is the Abraham Accords. President Donald Trump wants Saudi Arabia and other Arab countries to normalize relations with Israel and join the Abraham Accords alongside any major agreement with Iran. But this is where the difficulties begin. Iran has opposed Israel for a long time. If the United States links a peace agreement with the Abraham Accords, Tehran could view it as a strategic encirclement against itself. This is why several Iranian officials have already described American conditions as unrealistic. On the other hand, Saudi Arabia is also facing domestic and regional pressure regarding the normalization of relations with Israel. According to reports, Trump's effort to link the Abraham Accords to an Iran deal is creating differences within the Arab world. So while the 60-day ceasefire may appear to be a major diplomatic success, if issues such as a nuclear agreement, the Strait of Hormuz, and the Abraham Accords are tied together, they could become the biggest obstacles to the peace process. The fourth and biggest obstacle is Netanyahu. The greatest threat to this 60-day ceasefire may not come from a diplomatic document, but from a new military action on the ground. In the past, there have been several occasions when regional tensions appeared to be decreasing, only for Israel to launch attacks on Iran, citing security concerns. If Israel carries out a major attack against Iran or its allied groups during the ceasefire period, the entire negotiation process could collapse. And if the 60-day ceasefire between the United States and Iran moves toward a permanent agreement without a nuclear deal, Israel could impose additional conditions based on its security concerns or launch another attack. Because Netanyahu publicly says that he is not opposed to peace, but his priority is to ensure that strict restrictions are imposed on Iran's nuclear and military capabilities. This is why Israel's role in the coming days could be crucial in determining the direction of these negotiations. This could make the negotiation process even more complicated. In other words, the 60-day ceasefire is not just an issue between the United States and Iran. The success of this agreement will also depend on how the security concerns of Israel and its allies are addressed. The fifth obstacle is Pete Hegseth's statement. While speaking in Singapore today, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth did not rule out the possibility of renewed military action. Speaking to reporters, he said, "If necessary, we are fully capable of resuming operations. Our weapons stockpiles are sufficient both here and around the world. Because of the balance between advanced and widely available munitions, we are in a very strong position." This statement comes at a time when President Trump is expected to make a final decision on a 60-day Memorandum of Understanding with Iran. Hegseth's remarks could make Iran feel increasingly insecure about its position. As a result, tensions between the two sides could escalate further and potentially lead to a military confrontation. Overall, an agreement has certainly been reached on a 60-day ceasefire between the United States and Iran, but this peace still appears extremely fragile. On one side, there are military tensions. On the other side, Trump's nuclear demands. Then the controversy surrounding the Abraham Accords. And finally, Israel's security concerns. All four of these factors could challenge the agreement at any moment. The next 60 days could be extremely important not only for the United States and Iran, but for the entire Middle East. If these negotiations succeed, stability could return to the region, pressure on oil prices could ease, and the risk of a larger war could be avoided. But if even one of these four obstacles gets out of control, this ceasefire could become one of the shortest and most unstable agreements in history. All eyes are now on President Trump, the Iranian leadership, and Israel's next move. What is your opinion on this entire situation? Do you think this ceasefire will survive for 60 days, or is the Middle East once again moving toward a larger conflict? Let us know your opinion in the comments.